So on today's Academy lesson, we're going to be talking about one of the strongest and my most favorite principles in all of Magic, and that is that of the multiple outs. Now, what multiple outs are, the ability for all possible outcomes to be displayed separately without the spectator's knowledge of each other. So what does that mean? That means that you could have a prediction trick where you have 3 items laid out, for example. The spectator has a free choice as to any item they want. No equivoque, no sort of magician's choice. They pick whichever one they want. They could change their minds, and you have predicted that outcome well in advance. So imagine the strength of this particular trick and its applications to card magic itself. Now, I have let a couple different ideas using multiple outs on the channel as well as here on Patreon. If you guys have seen the shoe trick, that's a perfect example of the multiple outs because the spectator is unaware of the other options that are in the prediction trick. Very similar with the behind the back trick that I taught you guys on Patreon the other day, where you shuffle the cards twice, and depending on the pile that the spectator chooses, that affects whichever card you turn over secretly behind your back. That is a wonderful trick and one that you guys should definitely check out. All the links to the tricks that I mentioned, I'll leave below. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an example of something you guys could carry on yourself at all times that uses multiple outs and is very, very strong. So for this, we have a little bit of an envelope. Now, in this envelope, we have 3 cards. A circle, we have a wavy line, and we have a triangle. Now here, if you haven't guessed, the spectator can make a free choice as to whichever one they want. They could pick literally whichever shape they want. They could change their mind as many times as they want. You could talk a little bit about different shapes and what the shapes represent. So let's just go with the spectator picking the circle. You ask them, do you want to change your mind? Here, it's very important that you reiterate the fact that the spectator could change their mind as many times as they wish. And in this case, they choose to change their mind and say, yes, you know what? I want the triangle. And you go, okay, that's fantastic. So you pick the triangle. Do me a favor, hold on to that because I want to draw attention to the fact that there's only one prediction inside of my envelope. So inside the envelope, there's only one card, a little bit of a post-it note. So let's take that out. I want you to make sure there's nothing else in there. It's hard to do this with 2 hands, goddammit. But there's nothing else in there but one prediction. And of course, the prediction happens to read, you will pick the triangle. Of course, there was no other post-it note inside of the envelope, so the prediction should appear impossible to the spectator. So how do we do this very easy to carry around and hard-hitting trick you could use as an opener to kind of establish a connection between a spectator? Well, we have a prediction for each subsequent choice. Now, in this case, we have 3, so it's very easy to make 3 predictions and to have 3 predictions hidden in the envelope and on the cards themselves. It's going to make sense in a little bit. So for this, here's the setup that you need. You're going to need 3 cards. They could be business cards. They could be blank cards. I get these cards from Office Depot. You could use blank face cards. You could even use playing cards if you want. But you're going to draw shapes on them. So for example, here I have a triangle. Here I have a circle. And here I have just 2 squiggly lines. Now, the interesting part about this is what if the spectator would have picked the squiggly lines? What prediction would we show then? Well, of course, we're not going to show this prediction because that doesn't match. So which prediction do we show for the squiggly line? Well, cleverly, on the back of the squiggly line, there's a little bit of text that says you picked this one. Hey, you see how clever that is? So here it says you will pick this one. Now, of course, when you look at the back of the other ones, you notice that they're blank, so the spectator doesn't think that you just drew that on all the cards and happen to only show this one. So that's what's on the back of the squiggly line. So we've covered what happens if they pick the triangle. You just show the prediction inside of the envelope. We covered the squiggly lines. You show the prediction on the back of the card. But what if they pick the circle? What if they pick the circle? Well, if they pick the circle, luckily for you, you've drawn a prediction on the back of the envelope, which is a circle matching the one that they freely picked. So you notice here that it's very, very important for the spectator to be unaware of the other outs here. So they're unaware of the other predictions that you have. So in this case, there's only one envelope. You haven't switched envelopes. There isn't anything else drawn on the envelope. And you call attention to the fact that there's a circle on it. In this case, there is only one card with a prediction written on the back. So you could very cleanly show the back of all these cards and show that there isn't anything drawn on the back of them. Same thing with inside the envelope. It's very cleanly shown that there's only one post-it note inside of the envelope, and there isn't a whole set in there. So it's very important that when you create a multiple out trick, or when you're doing a trick that uses this principle, that the other outs are hidden within the confines of the trick. So in this case, this is a perfect example because each subsequent prediction is hidden by its nature. So in this case, there aren't anything drawn on the back of it, so you can very cleanly show this one. So by carrying this envelope, you have a very strong prediction trick that you could use anytime you want to establish a little bit of a connection between a spectator, anytime you want to maybe establish a spectator as being the right one for you to work with other tests, but it's very simple to carry around. So as far as the actual explanation of the trick, it's simplicity itself. You show the envelope, making sure, of course, not to show the backside. You take off the 3 cards, and you tell the spectator that these are ESP symbols. So you have a little bit of a squiggly line here, you have a circle, you have a triangle, and you tell them that it's going to be very important that they make a decision in a little bit as to one of the items. Now, of course, depending on the one they pick, that entirely determines which prediction you show. So again, if they happen to pick the squiggly line, you just happen to show the back of this one and that there isn't anything written on the back of the other ones. If they pick the circle, very simply just show the fact that there's a circle predicted or drawn on the back of the envelope. And if they happen to pick the triangle, then you have your out inside of the envelope itself, and there's only one prediction of that. But this is something that fits inside of a wallet. This is something that fits inside of your pocket. So it's something that you could carry around on you and have a little bit of an ESP test you could do at any point in time without much effort. This pretty much takes up no space, and again, the effect is astonishing. So as far as multiple outs, you got to keep in mind, it's one of the strongest principles in Magic, in my opinion. There are so many things you could do, and the main strength of it is that there is this freedom of choice. So I just want you guys to think creatively as to different applications of this principle in other ways, the card Magic. Now, I did mention some tricks that I have explained in the past that use the multiple outs principle, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many ways you could exploit that principle using cards, and so many ways you could exploit that principle with other tricks that don't necessarily involve predictions. We're going to talk about that in different lessons coming up in the future. However, I want you guys to start thinking about this principle and different ways to apply it to your Magic now, because assuming that you are a beginner magician, you need the knowledge of principles. You need the knowledge of these strong, established concepts, because through that, you're able to not only grow creatively, but you expand your knowledge base of things that are possible, so that if you are creating tricks for your own, or if you just want to strengthen existing tricks that you already know, you have all these tools in your tool belt and in your toolkit that you could employ anytime you want. So this is the multiple outs. Again, please leave in the comments different ways or different things that you guys might have for this concept. Again, think outside the box. Don't just limit it to predictions. Don't just limit it to ESP symbols. Think about different applications of cards. Think of different applications with normal everyday objects. Imagine if you ask somebody to borrow a phone, a set of keys, and a wallet, things that everyone carry. You have them pick whichever item they want. Now, free choice, they could have picked any item. They could have picked a phone. But imagine you're able to show that you predicted ahead of time that they were going to pick the phone somehow. So just think creatively as to different ways to apply this principle. So just leave in the comments different ideas you guys might have for this principle. Thank you guys for being part of the Academy. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I will definitely see you on the next one.